This is all about a choice that, on the surface, seemed absolutely perfect. I mean, it was a decision that could have nearly tripled a family's fortune. But instead, it ended up costing them thousands. And it all kicked off with a simple contract over some logging rights. So imagine this. You've just made what you believe is the absolute best move for your family's future. You're feeling good, right? But then that one single choice triggers a legal battle that costs you dearly. How does a great outcome lead to such a terrible one? Well, to get it, we've got to go back to the beginning. Okay, so let's meet Martin. He owns a piece of property, his only property, by the way, and he is under some serious financial pressure. He needs cash, and he needs it fast. So in this moment of real urgency, he makes a quick deal with a logging company, we'll just call them company, to sell the rights to the trees on his land. And what is just wild is how fast this all went down. I mean, look at this timeline. June 16th, he signs the first deal. Just 12 days later, he sends a notice to cancel it. And then, literally the very next day, he signs a brand new, way more lucrative contract with someone else. Now, the original company, they didn't just walk away. A couple of months later, they came back with a demand. This was the amount the first company agreed to pay him. You know, at the time, feeling that pressure, it probably seemed like a decent solution. But then, just 13 days after signing that first deal, he finds another buyer. And this buyer, they're willing to pay 15,000 euros. That's nearly 3 times more for the exact same logging rights. When you see the numbers side by side like this, you really get the dilemma he was in, right? The difference is just staggering. This isn't a small jump. We're talking about a potentially life-changing amount of money for his family. The pull to switch deals was, well, it was huge. So put yourself in his shoes for a second. What would you do? He believed that first deal was a total mistake, something he did in a hurry for a price way below what the timber was actually worth. Canceling it to get a better future for his family, it just felt like the only logical, responsible thing to do. So he sent the cancellation notice, signed the new deal, and thought that was that. But the first company, they hadn't moved on. The court did not focus on emotion. It asked one key legal question. And that was it. That's what this entire case boiled down to. Martin's financial situation, his feeling that he'd made a mistake, whether the price was fair, none of that was the central issue. The court's only job was to look at the promise he made and the law that governs that promise. So the first court had to, strip away all the human drama and just analyze the power of that document Martin had signed. What does a signature actually mean in the eyes of the law? And really, the answer comes down to this very basic concept. A contract isn't a suggestion, right? It's a legal obligation. The law just assumes that when you sign something, you've read it, you get it, and you agree to be bound by everything it says. And this is really where the two perspectives just completely clashed. Martin was arguing from this place of personal fairness. He felt like he'd been taken advantage of, and he deserved a do-over. But the court? They looked at it totally objectively. His reasons, acting too fast, maybe not fully getting the terms, were seen as his own issues, things he could have prevented. As the court put it, a bad deal and an illegal deal are two very, very different things. Then the court really dug into the penalty clause in the contract, and they decided it wasn't just some random punishment. It had a purpose. First, it was meant to cover the profit the company lost out on. And second, in a competitive market like this, it's there to stop people from just jumping ship every time a better offer comes along. But most importantly, the court pointed out that Martin made a calculated choice. He knew breaking the contract had a cost, but the new 15,000 euro deal was so good that it would easily cover that penalty and still leave him way ahead. Well, Martin disagreed. Completely. He felt like the court just sided with a big company over him, and that the penalty was just way too harsh. So he refused to accept it. He decided to appeal, hoping a higher court would see things his way. His argument on appeal was basically the same thing. This penalty is just not proportional. He was really hoping that a new set of judges would see the situation from his perspective, the human angle of a guy trying to do right by his family after making a quick mistake. But that is not what happened. The whole appeals process just ended up reinforcing the original decision. The appeals court reviewed all the facts, looked at the legal reasoning, and came to the exact same conclusion. The law was clear and it was applied correctly the first time. And then the appeals court added this fascinating little twist. They didn't see the penalty as excessive at all. In fact, they kind of argued it wasn't high enough. Why? Because that 15,000 euro offer made a totally rational financial decision for Martin to just break his promise and pay the fine. The penalty literally failed to do its main job, which was to make sure he kept his word. So, after 2 court battles, the outcome was final, and Martin was left holding the bill for that promise he broke. In the end, he was ordered to pay this amount. That's the full penalty from the contract, plus some of the court costs. Suddenly, that much better deal wasn't looking quite so much better anymore. So, what's the big takeaway here? This case is such a powerful reminder that a signature is way more than just ink on a page. It is a legal act. It transfers risk. See, when Martin signed that first contract, he locked in his price. He was protected if prices went down, but the company got the benefit if prices went up. By breaking it, he took all that risk back onto himself. And in the end, the courts made him pay the price for it. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? When does our personal sense of what's fair have to give way to the cold, hard letter of the law? One decision changed everything. Watch the next case right here and subscribe for more real stories.